Hey guys, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Samantha and I am a recent affiliate of myPAbox. And if you are watching this video, that means that you are a prospect for a future affiliation as well. So my job today is to give you a walkthrough of the myPAbox site and give you just a basic overview of what the site entails, because if you're going to be telling pre-PA students all about myPAbox, then of course you want to have a really solid understanding of what it is myPAbox is and how it will benefit pre-PA students going forward through their PA journey. So let's get started. So this is the home page, and then at the bottom you can see 4 different tabs. The second one is PA schools, and it shows all 291 PA schools, and this list is going to be updated regularly. So if there's ever a program that's added in the US, then it'll be generated in this list. So it'll have all 291 schools in this list, and there's a search bar if there's one particular program that you're looking for. Say that you haven't heard of a school before and you're like, what is Alderson Broadus University in West Virginia? I'm curious about that program. If you click it, then myPAbox has a ton of information about the program specifics on this page. So as you can see, it has all the contact information, so you don't have to Google it. It has the phone number, the email, the address, the website, everything's here. As the accreditation status, but has the tuition, and that's for both in-state and out-of-state, which is really helpful if you're a student that's going to be applying out-of-state, for example, and you want to do it in the most cost-effective way possible. It has the PANCE pass rate, both for the first-time PANCE pass and then the 5-year average. It has general program information, so the degree that's offered, the start date, the duration of the program, the class size, the seat deposit, the location of the program, all of the just general information. It has whether it has rolling admissions or not, and then if there's international students accepted. This page also has application information, and that includes, the application deadline. It also includes whether or not that school has a supplemental, and if they do have a supplemental, what the deadline is for that. And those features are really advantageous for students who are applying, because if they're applying to a bunch of different programs, those are the details that tie applicants up. And so if they have the information such as the deadline, whether or not the school is rolling or not, and then if they have a supplemental, then they can plan out their CASP application process accordingly. Everything's just here, it's laid out, it's super clean cut, very simple. It has no extraneous information, just everything that you would want to know is in this list. Aside from program info, it also has the requirements that are needed for this particular program. And so you have the degree that's required, bachelor's degree is required there, has the GPA requirements for both the overall and the science and the prereqs. And so this one just happens to be 3.0, but some schools those vary, and so that would be sort of generated in this list here. Aside from having the minimum GPA required, it also has the average GPA accepted in the prior cycle. And so, as I said, everything's updated on myPAbox, so this will change as the years go forward. So this year just happens to be a 3.4 GPA, and so that would be something that's good to know, because guess what, if you have a 3.0 as a pre-PA applicant, you're like, okay, I can apply to this program, no big deal. But in actuality, that school's not as likely to consider you a competitive applicant as other schools. Having that information here directly at first glance is super helpful, because otherwise you're going to have to be Googling each program individually and navigating in their program's website. And we all know that some of the program's websites are not that easy to navigate. Some schools have a very clean cut, easy to access, easy to navigate interface. Other schools have very old, outdated websites that are really hard and frustrating to navigate. And so this just helps make the process so much easier. So this also has the prerequisites that are required for the program, and it has both required courses and then optional courses, which is really nice as well. And then on top of having the courses that are required, it'll tell you if those prerequisite courses have an expiration date associated with them. So if a school has, a prerequisite expiration date of 5 years or 7 years, that'll be shown here on myPAbox so the students can actually see. And so if they're not applying for a couple of years, or they have a couple gap years and they're kind of on the cusp of whether or not something's going to be expired, that will be shown right here. So that's really great as well. Additionally, it has information that a lot of students have questions about, and that includes whether or not a class can be in progress by the time you apply. So this school says that prereqs can be in progress at the time of application. It has answers to common questions that pre-PA students have, like, do online classes count for prerequisites? What about pass-fail classes or AP classes that I took back in high school? Are those accepted by the program? So this school says no to all of the above, but if the school did accept it, then that would be generated in this list. Another thing that is generated in this list is healthcare experience and whether or not the school requires it. So this school says healthcare hours are not required. PA shadowing hours are required, and they require a minimum of 40 hours. So that's also generated in this list. Additionally, you have evaluations that are generated in this list because some schools require just a few, some schools require specific evaluations from like a professor and a PA, for example. Other schools, don't have any preferences whatsoever. So that would all be generated in this list as far as who your evaluations are required from, how many are required, things of that nature. Of course, they have the GRE, whether or not that's accepted. And this school says that the GRE is required, but there's no minimum GRE score requirement for this program. And then international students are accepted and accepted exams. There's also specifics about that as well. So that's an overview of the requirements needed for this program. And then if you go back up to the top, the third little tab is a message board. So this is where you can write a comment or a question about the program, and other students can answer your question, and you can have sort of a collaborative environment there for pre-PA applicants. And so that is one of the newer features, which is really cool. So if you look at this school from this little page here, but you're like, oh, you know what, I actually really like that school, then you can go ahead and save that school and it will go straight into your dashboard. And so if you see on the bottom, you can see the dashboard there. And in the top left corner, you see saved schools. And so that school is going to be there generated in this list. And you can see the 0 completed status bar. So that is pretty cool because basically that status bar indicates how close the PA applicant is to applying to that program, just based on whether they've completed the prerequisites and the patient care experience hours, or if they've taken the GRE, things of that nature. As soon as you start checking off those boxes in your pre-PA process, then you'll get closer and closer to that status bar hitting 100% and being able to apply to that program. The third tab in the bottom in the purple is the school match page. So this page is really great if you've already gone through your pre-PA process, basically, or even if you're planning out your pre-PA process and you have certain prerequisites in mind to complete, or you've already completed certain prerequisites, and then you have a certain number of patient care hours completed and shadowing hours, and you've taken the GRE or you haven't taken it and you don't plan on taking it. If you have certain things completed or planned to complete, then you can enter them into this page. And then what this page will do is generate the amount of schools that you're applicable for. So I'm going to give you a hypothetical pre-PA student that we're gonna enter into this list, and then I'll show you guys what it looks like on the other side so we can kind of put it into context together and you can get a really good idea of what this looks like. So starting at the top, you have the state. I live in California, so I'm going to put California into this list, and then I'm going to put, let's do Colorado, and I'm from New York, so I'm going to add New York to this list, and let's add a wild card and do Alaska. Just because. So if you see on the top, it has 47 schools matched with me. So from there, I'm gonna go into tuition and I can specify. So if I have a budget in mind for how much I'm willing to spend in PA school, say anything more than 150,000 is a little bit too steep. So I'm just gonna go ahead and click, 100 to 150, and that's just kind of what I have planned. So then I can go ahead and click that. And then for accreditation status, you can specify if you have a preference as far as if the school is accredited or provisional, then you can specify that here. I don't have a preference necessarily. As long as the school is not on probation, I have no true preference there. So I'm going to leave that blank. But if you did have a preference and you wanted a school that was accredited, you can go ahead and click that. For GPA, say I'm a student that has a slightly lower GPA. And so we're going to do an overall GPA of like 3.4. And then a science GPA, I'll say 3.0. So as you can see on the top, it has 18 schools that are matched with me right now at this moment in time. So we'll keep going. So for prerequisites, you can have both included courses and excluded courses. And so if you want a school that includes a specific course like anatomy and physio 1 and 2, you can click that. So say you want a school that excludes genetics because you didn't take it, then you can just click genetics, and then it'll have 15 schools that match with you there. So I'm gonna leave that. But you have a whole list of different courses here. So you can include or exclude a bunch of different courses, both in math, English, biochem, organic chem, physics, things of that nature. So with the patient care experience hours, you can get really specific. So if I say I have 1,000 hours, then 14 schools match. But if I have, 2,500 hours, then I keep all 15 schools in my list. So that's enough to fulfill the requirement for all of the schools that I'm currently applicable for. But I'm going to leave it at 1,000. So for shadowing, if you're like, I didn't shadow anywhere, I'm going to say how many schools allow no shadowing required. So only 2 schools allow no shadowing whatsoever. So we're going to say we have about 100 shadowing hours and 12 schools still match with me. So if I say that I have 200 shadowing hours, then 12 schools still match with me. And we'll leave it at that. And as far as exams go, I'm going to see how many schools don't require the GRE whatsoever. So 11 schools. So even if I didn't take the GRE, I can still apply to 11 of 12 of those programs, which is pretty good. So I'm going to leave it there. And then Casper, you can say not required. Not many schools required the Casper, but it's nice to know that it's included in this list. So if you're a student and you're like, I don't know what the Casper is, I've never heard of that before, then you can click this little eye icon on the upper right of that box, and it'll give you a description of what the Casper test is. And these little info bubbles are located all around the site. So if you're just getting into the pre-PA process and you have a lot to learn, then these are super beneficial because you don't have to Google everything separately. It's almost as if this is like pre-PA 101 located in one space where you can learn about what the GRE is, what the Casper is, what specific requirements are, things of that nature. You can kind of get a good sense of what will be expected of you going forward in your pre-PA journey, which is really nice. So I'm going to say not required for Casper. Then the PA CAT or PA CAT, I'm going to say not required as well. So I'm still matched with 11 programs here. And then you have the program details. So if you're like, I want to apply only to rolling admissions programs, then you can click that box, and I still match with 8, which is really good because generally speaking, students apply to about 8 to 12 programs. I personally applied to 7. And so 8 is a solid number. But obviously, the more schools you can apply to, the higher your chances of getting it accepted. So I'm going to leave rolling admissions out and say I'm not going to be too picky about that. So for the program details, there's other information that's available. So for example, if you want to know if the school has on-campus housing available, if that's something that's important to you, if you're moving in from out of state, then you can click that. 3 schools still match with me there. If you want to know if international students are accepted, then you can click that, and then I'm still matched with 11 of 11 schools. Those are all good things to know. Then that way you don't have to email the programs directly about those things that are available online somewhere. You just might have a difficult time finding it. And sometimes it's just a matter of figuring out where online this information is. And fortunately, myPAbox really helps funnel through, all of the different superfluous information that's on different PA programs and websites, and just makes it super easy. So you can see directly if there's on-campus housing available, if international students are accepted, if they require things like the Casper test, or if they have supplemental applications. You can see all of this information directly on the myPAbox site, which is great. So lastly, we have the application deadline. So for example, if you're still planning on applying this cycle, the 2020 to 2021 application cycle, then you would click this little bubble here. And then you can select a month. Say you're not thinking of applying until December, then you can click this box and see if schools will still be accepting applications in December of 2020. And as you can see, there's still 4 schools that match with me. So if I did want to apply this cycle, technically I could with those stats to 4 programs. But we'll just leave it pretty general. And I'll say I'm looking to apply this cycle in July, so this month. And I still match with 11 programs. So from there, we can hit view results. You can see that I match with 11 different programs. And so if you click one of these programs, then it'll give you that program information page that I showed you guys before. And so you can save a certain school to your dashboard. Again, you have all of the saved programs right there for you. So I'm going to play around with this a little bit and just give myself more schools to choose from. So I canceled all the states, so we're just going to keep it open. All schools in the US are potential prospects for my PA school in this case. And then I switched up the GPA, so I made it slightly more competitive, an overall of 3.8 and a science of 3.6. So I have 21 schools matched with me, which is a little bit more than it was before. So we're going to see what it says when you hit the view results button. Which 21 schools am I looking at here? So not only will it give you the list of programs that you're applicable for, but it actually breaks up that list into highly recommended and then recommended schools. So what that highly recommended list means is that you are more likely to get into that school with the particular stats that you put into myPAbox. So as you can see, there's a green thumbs up with 8 recommended schools. So that means that those schools are schools that you are highly recommended to apply to because you have a higher likelihood of getting in or being considered a more competitive applicant than you would if you applied to a different program. And then of course, as you can see, it has 21 total match schools, and that's just the list of all of the 21 schools that you are considered applicable for. So when you have the 8 recommended schools, what you can do is you can click on the school, take a look at all of their information as I showed you before. At the very bottom, it shows when it was last verified or last updated. So this one was June 30th. And then you can save it if you'd like. So save to the dashboard. That is how you would use the school match feature. Basically, all of your stats you just enter right into the myPAbox website, and then it'll generate the list for you of schools that you are applicable for, that you should apply to or are more likely to be accepted to. So that's really advantageous because if you're a student that has maybe a slightly lower GPA or not too many patient care hours, then that could be a point of anxiety for you when applying, and you can think, I don't know if I'm gonna get in. I don't have a high GPA or I don't have a lot of hours. Well, myPAbox will really help you funnel through all of the programs in the US and show you schools that will consider you a more competitive applicant given those stats. So that is key because otherwise you're gonna have to go on each individual website, look at their stats from their previous cohort or the year before that, see what their general stats were as far as their patient care hours and their GPA, and see where you fall in. myPAbox really helps make this process easy, and it's not up for interpretation. It just gives you which schools you're more likely to be accepted to, which schools you're applicable for, just generally speaking too. So it really helps PA applicants funnel through all of that information and figure out which schools are best for them to apply to. So if we go to the dashboard that's located in the bottom right-hand corner of the page, then we can see the saved schools, which we've already discussed, the status bars. We can see my grades in particular. So with this page in particular, we can add a university, add a college. Say I went to the University of Long Beach, so I'm just gonna add that here. So you can add a college, add all of your university information, the start date, the college type, if it was a 2-year, if you're at a community college and you got an associate's degree, if you went to a 4-year and you got a bachelor's degree, you can enter in all of that information, the graduation date, whether the degree is in progress or completed, things of that nature, and you can add it onto your list. You can do that as many times as you'd like. Like for me, I went to a few different colleges because I moved, so I would add all of that information. And then once you add a school, then you can go in and then you can say, okay, so I have a semester that's done, and it was done as a freshman. Semester term was gonna be fall, and the start date, I'll just pick a random start date here. We'll just say August 28th. Add the semester, and then you can go in to edit the semester. You can add the specific courses. So we'll just say acupuncture, course grade A, course credits 3.0, with lab grade A, lab credits 1.0, and then you would set, if it was an online course, then you would add that specific. If it was a pass-fail course, then you would add that as well. So we'll just add that course right there. And you can add as many courses as you want, obviously, for each semester. And you can add AP courses, CLEP, I don't know what that is, to be honest, but you can add that as well. And so you would go through, as you go through undergrad or as you go through your prerequisites, you can add those specific courses into myPAbox. And then if you go back, then what it has is your college GPA. So I obviously only have that one course there. So I have a 4.0 and I have a science of 4.0 as well. But it also gives you a projected CASPA application as well. So if you have all of your information, all of your classes located in myPAbox, then that could transfer into the CASPA generated GPA list. So once you add that course, you can go back to your list, and as you can see, my college GPA shows a 4.0 because I only have one class and I got an A in it. And so overall it's a 4.0, science is a 4.0. But then if you slide over to the projected CASPA, it would show you what that GPA from your college would look like in CASPA, because we all know that CASPA kind of docks a little bit of your GPA off, or shaves off a little bit of your GPA. And so a lot of students come to me and they ask me, you know, where do I go to figure out what my GPA would actually be in CASPA? On CASPA, you can figure out how to calculate your GPA, but the perk of having it in myPAbox is that it's all right there. By doing it ahead of time and just entering in your courses as you go, it not only holds you accountable, but allows you to transition everything into CASPA a lot easier. And you can see your projected CASPA GPA as you go as well. Aside from that, you have the PA shadowing, and so you would add the physician assistant that you shadowed, and these are all things that you're going to have to enter into CASPA when you apply. A lot of pre-PA students don't know that, and so they don't know to take down the PA's phone number and email and address and information, so then that way they can enter it into CASPA when it comes time to apply. So it's nice to have all of that there. It really reduces the friction between entering all of the information and all of your experiences into CASPA. So myPAbox has that right here for you, and it has the specialty, it has the facility name, it has everything. And then it will generate all your total shadowing hours here as well, which is really nice because it's very motivational. So with healthcare experience, you can go to experience type, and it has all different experience types available for you. It's community service, direct paid patient care hours, indirect patient hours, and volunteering hours. Those are all potential experiences that you would have to enter into CASPA. So it makes it really easy to transition from the pre-PA process into the CASPA I'm applying at this moment process, where I need all of this information and all of these specifics. So it has organization name, the address, all that stuff. And then it has the start date, the end date, if you were employed full-time versus part-time, the supervisor information, because again, you're going to need that information when you apply to CASPA as well. It also has the certifications also. That's also a part in CASPA that you can add, is if you have, you know, a CNA certification, BLS certification, MA, things of that nature. So again, these are all details that were really well thought out by the creators of myPAbox to make applying to PA school and entering everything into CASPA incredibly seamless and easy. So that's the healthcare experience. And again, it shows you the hours, which is really motivational and kind of keeps the student pushing forward and trudging along and getting those hours and, you know, documenting that experience. And then additionally, you have evaluations. So you can add the evaluators, and the titles are all right here. They have quite a few. So you can really specify, because some schools require letters of rec from a specific person. That's all good to know. And then the time known in months is also really nice. And just different general information, because that's stuff that you're going to have to enter into CASPA when you apply. And then lastly, there's a section for exams. So if you add an exam, then there's all the different types of exams that you could potentially take as a pre-PA student. And so you can specify which one it was that you took. And say if it was the GRE, then you have it completed or scheduled. Say I completed it on this date, then you can save it there. And you can add your score. So you can add the combined score. Say my combined score was like a 310, and then you can go and you can enter the specifics of what you got on each individual portion. So it gets really specific. You can break it down into the verbal score, the analytical, and the quantitative, and then also the percentiles with which you fell into each category. So that's the My Exams portion. So I'm gonna go back to my saved schools because I entered in some random information now, like the GRE score and things of that nature. So I'm gonna go to save schools. And as you can see, I have a certain percentage completed for each of these schools that I have saved to my dashboard. So that's just an example of how when you enter something, it automatically generates into this list and updates this list, so you can really see real time how close you are to applying. So that's just your general walkthrough of the myPAbox site. I hope it was informative and enlightening and makes you excited to be an affiliate with myPAbox, because I think it's a great site. I think that there are so many different aspects of the site that is incredibly advantageous and beneficial for pre-PA students, who are trying to navigate this daunting, ridiculous process of applying to PA school, because there's a lot of different aspects to applying, and this site really helps make it easier for the students who are working towards applying to PA school. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to the creators of the site. Aside from that, thank you guys for watching, and I look forward to seeing you out there spreading the word about myPAbox. Have a good one and keep working hard.